my gosh, guys, I'm so lucky.
These are the funniest fake Minecraft speedruns of all time. This first speedrun begins, and right off the bat, there's something incredibly suspicious about it. And surprisingly, it actually has nothing to do with the runner's world generation. As we could clearly see, it was normal. And it's actually not a spawn either, as the runner is clearly facing straight. But let's actually take a closer look at this speedrunner's webcam in the top left corner. Because right as the runner starts moving, you'll actually notice that both of his hands are in the air. And this is incredibly suspicious, because his hands being in the air mean they clearly aren't on the keyboard. So how in the world is it possible that the runner is even moving? Well, besides that very suspicious beginning, the rest of the run begins with the speedrunner locating a nearby village. But wait a second, this speedrunner just did it again, because as the runner is clearly moving his mouse to grab loot from this village chest, you can see him taking selfies in the top left corner of the screen. So as you're probably wondering, who in the world is actually playing Minecraft in this speedrun? Because it's clearly not Mr. Instagram in the top left corner. So the speedrun continues with the runner gathering some hay, collecting a couple of beds, and beginning to fight the iron golem. And giving the speedrunner the benefit of the doubt, he's finally not distracted by his phone, and I think it's more than likely he's actually fighting this golem pretty normally. But maybe I spoke too soon, because right as the runner is about to kill the iron golem, you can literally see him drinking the most obnoxiously large bottle of Fanta that I've ever seen. And while the runner is clearly distracted and not playing Minecraft, somebody is actually killing the iron golem and collecting a bunch of ingots. What is going on? Well, after getting some iron from the golem and collecting a flint, the runner quickly crafts flint and steel, where he starts searching for a ruined portal. And if I have to give the runner some credit, he actually does seem to be focused now, and he locates a ruined portal without a single bit of suspicious activity. But as the speedrunner is about to place his obsidian blocks in the ruined portal, is that McDonald's? Okay, this has to be a joke. There's no way. The runner literally pulls some fries out of the bag and starts eating them during the speedrun. Wait, but not only that, because while somebody is placing blocks of obsidian in the portal, the runner literally pulls out a burger and starts eating it, all while he's somehow lighting the portal while using flint and steel. At this point, I'm convinced this guy isn't even the one playing Minecraft. So the speedrunner finally enters the nether, where thankfully things actually seem pretty normal, with the runner spawning in with the exact same items as he did in the overworlds, and without magically gaining any potion effects in the top right corner. But the speedrunner actually has a quick message to make before he starts looking for the fortress, explaining in chat that he has to leave and take care of something. Well, it seems like the speedrunner has something to take care of, which I guess isn't out of the ordinary. But this guy messes up big time, because you can actually see him get up and leave before he remembers to turn off his camera. And 30 seconds later, while the speedrunner thinks his webcam is turned off, he returns to his setup carrying a laptop. This is just hilarious at this point. Now, we unfortunately aren't able to see what the runner is doing on this computer, but he does a few things in game to give us some clues. Because right after the runner returns from getting his laptop, you can see him type /seed in the chat, which is a command used to tell you the seed of the Minecraft world you're playing on. And right after the speedrunner does this, you can clearly see that he's searching something up on his laptop. Now, I can't actually confirm this for sure, but I'm pretty confident that this speedrunner is on a Minecraft fortress locator website, and the reason he just looked for his Minecraft seed was for the exact purpose of putting it into the website so he could locate the exact coordinates of the fortress. And if you weren't convinced by my theory, when the runner opens his F3 menu and follows a very specific path directly to a fortress, I think it's more than likely that this is what happened. And not only does that explain explain why the runner grabbed his laptop, but he needs to remember to turn off his webcam. So the runner quickly enters the fortress, where, giving him credit, he does actually get the achievement for entering into it. And after looting a fortress chest, he actually manages to find a blaze spawner without much suspicious activity. But why did the speedrunner just leave? And while the speedrunner is seemingly taking a phone call, somebody is actually fighting and killing these blazes. And while we can clearly see the runner far away from his keyboard, he somehow collects 7 blaze rods. But I'm honestly more curious about what this guy was on the phone for. So the runner finally returns to his desk, and thankfully it appears as though he finally starts to play, as he quickly leaves the fortress and starts searching for a bastion. However, the speedrunner then does something incredibly sneaky to try to cheat, because he decides to move his face cam into the bottom left corner of the screen, which is very odd as it's been in the top left the entire speedrun. Well, right after the runner decides to do this, he of course now seems to know the exact location a bastion is located. Well, if you haven't caught on, the runner actually used this face cam to cheat once again, because he put it in the bottom left corner of the screen, because that's the exact same place where chat and commands are in Minecraft. So I think it's obvious the runner is trying to hide the fact that he actually used a /locate command for the bastion. And to prove this one step further, you can literally hear him typing on his keyboard, confirming to us that he was typing in a /locate command. So, after clearly cheating in his method of locating the bastion, the runner quickly enters inside, where a normal speedrunner would immediately collect gold blocks to trade with the piglins. The only problem is this: the runner doesn't have a single iron pickaxe anywhere in their inventory, meaning they have 0 way to mine any gold blocks and therefore can't trade with piglins. Well, even without an iron pickaxe, the runner decides to start mining this gold block with his fist? Alright, I don't want to be mean, but is this guy a noob? Everybody knows you can't mine gold with your fist. What? He manages to successfully mine a piece of gold with his hand, and he actually collects the gold block. And just to confirm this is fake, after loading into my very own Minecraft world, you can clearly see nothing drops after you mine a block of gold with your fist. So I might have underestimated this speedrunner, because that was absolutely insane. So after mining 3 more gold blocks with his fist, the runner quickly turns the block into ingots, where he starts to trade with a group of nearby piglins. And thankfully, literally every single thing about these trades are completely normal, as the runner gets very standard loot and nothing overpowered. But it isn't the gameplay that is fake at this part of the run, but actually the speedrunner himself. And I'm gonna warn you, what you are about to see is so dumb I can't think of a single explanation for it. Because while the runner is quite literally in the middle of throwing gold at the piglins, he pulls out a blender and actually starts to make some sort of smoothie. Alright, first off, why in the world is the speedrunner using a blender at his gaming setup? But secondly, while he's doing this, his character is still moving and making trades with the piglins. And I'm sorry, if I had a single explanation for what in the world this guy was thinking, I tell you guys. So, after whipping out a blender during his speedrun, he gets all the ender pearls and blocks of obsidian that he needs from the piglins, where he starts to build himself a nether portal to travel back to the overworld. But not only is this guy terrible at hiding his cheating, but he is also just terrible at Minecraft, because he accidentally misplaces one of his blocks of obsidian, meaning he now has no way of finishing the nether portal. But I think this guy gave up in trying to hide his cheating, because you can see that he just starts typing a command to give him the extra block of obsidian, where he then completes the portal. So the runner lights the portal, spawns into the overworld, and I'm shocked. He actually crafts Eyes of Ender, and despite cheating throughout the entire speedrun, he starts using the process of triangulation like any normal speedrunner would, and he actually locates the position of the strongholds without a bit of suspicious activity. But things get absolutely hilarious when he starts digging down into the strongholds, because if you thought eating McDonald's or making a smoothie during the speedrun was funny, he decides to grab his backpack, take out a notebook, and literally starts doing his homework. you know what? At least this guy is responsible enough to remember his assignments. But why is he doing them while he's in the middle of a Minecraft speedrun? So, the runner finally enters the stronghold, where somebody is looting the chests and locating the end's portal room, where the runner finally sets down his homework to grab his eyes of ender and quickly light the end's portal. And while his spawn into the end is actually pretty normal, with the runner still being in survival mode and without gaining any strange potions, but when the runner goes into F5 mode, what in the world? This speedrunner's player has suddenly turned miniature. Is that even possible? And wait, 5 seconds ago when he was in the stronghold, we could clearly see the runner was perfectly normal sized. What was glitched about this end portal? Well, literally being miniature, it's actually pretty hard for the runner to break the crystals. But once he finally does, the runner turns his focus to trying to kill the ender dragon. And the speedrunner, despite being incredibly small, is actually putting up a pretty decent fight. The only problem is, you'll notice the speedrunner isn't even at his computer. And as the runner literally kills the ender dragon and is gathering all of his XP, he isn't even on the screen and is nowhere to be found. So who is the one who is actually beating this speedrun? This next speedrun begins, and unfortunately, there is already something incredibly fake about it. And no, it actually doesn't have anything to do with the runner's generation screen, as we could clearly see his game mode was set to survival. And it actually isn't the position of the spawn itself, as the runner is facing perfectly straight, but it's actually the location of the speedrunner spawn. Because when the runner opens his F3 menu, do you notice it? Well, in Minecraft, you will always spawn within a few hundred blocks of the origin, which is located at 0, 0, 0. However, as you can clearly see by this player's coordinates, he is well beyond a few hundred blocks, with his X coordinate literally being at 2,000. And this quite literally proves that this spawn location is completely fake, and not only does this mean that the runner has made a cut in his recording, but it is very likely that he is using a set seed. But let's give the runner the benefit of the doubt, as the rest of his spawn looks to be very standard, as the runner mines some wood, crafts a few tools, and makes his way into a suspiciously close plains village. But as the runner is collecting some hay, we get more details as to why the runner faked his world generation. Because at this part of the footage, the runner accidentally reveals some of the tabs he has open. And apart from Minecraft and YouTube, let's take a closer look at the final tab the runner has open, which is quite literally a Google document called Minecraft Seeds, which has an entire page filled with seeds ready for the runner to use. So I think it's incredibly obvious that the reason the runner had to edit his world generation was so he could use one of these Minecraft seeds to gain an advantage. Well, after using the hay he gathered to craft some bread and collecting a few beds in the village, the run continues with the speedrunner going to loot this village chest. But hold on a second, did you catch that? Right before the runner is about to open the chest, let's take a very close look outside this village window, where you can actually see the amount of daylight outside completely change. And because the time of day changes gradually in Minecraft and not at an instant like we just saw, this means the speedrunner has made yet another cut in his recording. So when he opens the village chest and finds some pretty overpowered items, including a potion of fire resistance which can't even spawn naturally in a village chest, it's obvious that the runner cut his footage so he could go off camera and place the overpowered items in the chest himself. This guy just can't stop cheating. So, after collecting all of the loot from this village chest, the speedrunner grabs one extra bed and starts to search for a ruins portal, where, to his credit, is what a normal speedrunner would do at this point, so everything seems legit. But that's until... what? Okay, seriously, what in the world am I looking at here? He finds a ruins portal with 4 portals stacked on top of each other, and each is already lit with a different color. Okay, I've reviewed hundreds hundreds of fake speedruns. And this honestly might be the craziest thing that I've ever seen. Well, I guess the runner is feeling the green nether portal because he quickly loots the ruined portal chest and makes his way straight into it. But when the runner spawns in, what? He spawns in some sort of brand new dimension that has some of the strangest colors I've ever seen. And what type of cursed mob is the runner even looking at? Alright, there is no way this was part of the new update. Well, the speedrunner must be scared because he quickly heads back towards his portal as a way to leave this crazy dimension. And you're probably expecting him to spawn back into the overworld in the exact same place he originally entered the portal. But when the runner spawns back in, what? He not only spawns into the nether, but right in the middle of a nether fortress. And I'm sorry, I wish I had an explanation for what in the world is even happening. So, after the runner somehow spawns straight into a fortress from a green portal, things finally seem to be a bit more normal. With the runner looting a fortress chest, drinking the potion of fire resistance he got from the village, and quickly locating a blaze spawner. All completely legit. But if you've learned one thing about this speedrun, it's that things don't stay normal for too long. Because instead of blazes spawning at the blaze spawner, sheep start spawning instead. Wait, is that even possible? We can clearly see the mob inside this spawner is a blaze. How in the world are sheep spawning here? Well, that's not even the craziest thing about this part of the run. Because instead of dropping wool like a normal sheep would, they instead drop blaze rods. Let me replay that. There are no cuts in the recording. The runner literally just killed these sheep and got free blaze rods. And I wish I had an idea on how the runner just pulled this off, but I'm at a loss for words. So, after killing just a couple more sheep, the runner already has 7 blaze rods, and with enough rods in his inventory, the next item that the runner needs to collect is ender pearls, where a normal speedrunner would likely search for a bastion to get them from piglin trades. But this runner instead comes across what? Alright, this building not only looks insane, but there is no way it is a real Minecraft structure. Well, the runner makes his way into this menacing looking structure where he comes face to face with the Nether Warden, who pulls out a sword and leads the runner to a chest with an insane amount of ender pearls. Wait, I thought this guy was about to kill our speedrunner, but he instead just led him to Minecraft's most overpowered chest. And after looting it, the warden literally types in chat, "Thank you for visiting." This might be the nicest warden that I've literally ever seen, but don't get distracted. This structure is still definitely not real. Well, after getting 4 stacks of ender pearls from the Nether Warden and enough blaze rods from the fortress, the runner now has enough items to head back to the overworld. But when the runner goes to check his inventory, he quickly realizes the only thing he is missing is obsidian. And without obsidian, the runner has no way to build a nether portal and therefore can't head back towards the overworld. Well, that's when out of nowhere, the Nether Warden reappears, and after pulling out a single redstone torch, the Nether Warden spawns in a portal out of thin air. And I'll replay the footage. There are no cuts at all. This warden somehow just summoned a fully built portal for the runner to use. And I don't know what powers this warden has, but that was absolutely insane. So, after entering a portal that was quite literally spawned out of thin air, the runner makes his way back into the overworld. And right away, the runner crafts Eyes of Ender, where you're probably expecting him to use the process of triangulation to locate the position of the strongholds. But that's until... what? The runner finds a pig with a literal boat on it, and he is also named the Stronghold Pig? Okay, there is no way the Stronghold Pig is a real Minecraft mob. Well, the runner makes his way towards this strange looking mob, where he decides to enter the boat, and somehow, the pig literally starts moving on its own, where it is clearly going in a very specific direction. Alright, there is no way the Stronghold Pig actually knows the location of the strongholds. Well, very shortly after the runner originally got on the pig, it suddenly stops moving, where the runner, trusting that this pig knows what it's doing, starts to dig down at that very spot. Alright, there is no way this actually works. What? The stronghold pig actually leads the runner directly into the strongholds. I think I may have seen it all in Minecraft speedrunning. So, the runner somehow drops into the stronghold, where after looting a stronghold chest, he quickly makes his way into the end portal room. But when the runner goes to check the portal, what? Some of the end portal is somehow already lit, despite the fact that only a few eyes are in the frames. Now, do you remember at the beginning of the speedrun when we found out the runner was using a set seed? Well, I think it's obvious the runner purposely chose a seed where the end portal was glitched and somehow lit on its own. That way he wouldn't have to worry about filling the end portal for himself. And even though we figured out this part of the run is fake, that doesn't change the fact that this portal looks insanely cursed. So, the runner jumps into this cursed portal where he actually manages to spawn in the end. And because he spawns on an obsidian platform and without any strange potion effects in the top right corner of the screen, it may look like everything is normal about this end. But all of a sudden, a bright white flash suddenly takes over the speedrunner's vision. Was there some sort of smoke bomb that went off? Well, whatever the case may be, when the runner regains his vision after the smoke bomb, what? The end dimension has quite literally turned overpowered. Was this some sort of magical smoke bomb? How did everything change so quickly? Well, not only did this smoke bomb turn the entire surface overpowered and all of the obsidian pillars into pure quartz, but when the runner locates the ender dragon, it has quite literally transformed into the netherite ender dragon. And this dragon is so incredibly strong that even after breaking all of the crystals and literally cheating by typing in a command to get a netherite sword, the runner cannot do a single tick of damage to the dragon. Look, he is hitting this dragon with a pure netherite sword, but his health bar has stayed the exact same. And I guess this angered the speedrunner so much because he literally just opens his menu and quits the game. I wonder if he ever finished the speedrun. This next speedrun begins, and right off the bat, there is already something fake about it. But it isn't something incredibly obvious, as everything looks fairly normal on the surface, as we can clearly see the runner spawned in facing straight, and he's also in survival mode. But let's actually go back to before the runner generated his world, and when he was adjusting his brightness. Because while the runner is adjusting this setting, take a very close look at his GUI scale, which is a number that determines how big or small your hotbar appears. And as we can clearly see, he has it set to 5. However, when the runner spawns into the game, we can clearly see his GUI is much smaller than level 5 and is likely at level 3. And this actually means that the footage of him loading into the world and the footage of him spawning in are actually two completely different pieces of footage. And the runner has actually edited his world generation, making it very likely that he's using a set seed. Either way, ignoring the incredibly suspicious spawn, the speedrun begins with the runner mining some wood, crafting a couple of tools, and making his way to a nearby shipwreck. And while this shipwreck may look completely normal to the average Minecraft player, there is one thing about this shipwreck itself that is incredibly odd. Because in Minecraft, a shipwreck will always spawn with only 2 different types of wood. However, when it comes to this shipwreck, we can actually clearly see there are 3 different types of wood, which actually leads me to believe that this shipwreck didn't generate naturally, but was instead built by the runner off camera. And this is further proven when the runner finds 4 chests inside the shipwreck, when the maximum amount of chests that can spawn naturally is only 3. Now, these 2 details essentially prove that this shipwreck is completely fake and was custom built by the speedrunner himself. But if you were still not sure about it, there is one more extremely hidden detail which guarantees this isn't real. Because if you replay the footage of the runner locating this structure, notice how he followed these dirt blocks all the way to the shipwreck. Clearly a sign that the runner placed them himself off camera, reminding him the exact direction the shipwreck was located. And the cherry on top is when the runner finally goes to loot his very first shipwreck chest, he finds an insane amount of obsidian, an item that can't even spawn naturally in this location. And I think it's pretty obvious that the reason the runner edited his world generation was so he could build this shipwreck for himself off camera. Well, after looting the rest of this entirely fake Minecraft shipwreck, you'd probably expect the runner to use his obsidian to quickly build a nether portal. But when the speedrunner opens his inventory, notice how he doesn't have a single flint and steel or fire charge, meaning even if he did build the portal, he would have no way to light it and can't enter the nether. But despite this, the runner insists on building his nether portal. But when he goes to place the final block, what? This portal somehow lights on its very own after being completed. And because the runner didn't use flint and steel, didn't use a fire charge, and didn't even use a method involving lighting wood on fire, I have absolutely no idea how he pulled this off. So, the runner enters the self-lighting nether portal and quickly spawns into the nether. And with this spawn being completely legit, the runner starts his search for a bastion. But after nearly 7 minutes of searching, the runner simply can't seem to find a bastion anywhere in the nether. And this is incredibly unlucky, as bastions spawn every 200 to 400 blocks, meaning the runner should have found one by now. Well, the runner starts typing in chat, explaining that he wants to try out a new hack that he found on TikTok, where the runner types in the sentence, "Roses are red, violets are blue, bastion please spawn, and love you I do." Okay, I can guarantee this poem will do absolutely nothing. What? A bastion literally spawns out of thin air. And I'll replay this clip. There is very clearly not a single cut anywhere, and this poem has indeed just magically spawned in a bastion. I need a link to whatever TikTok explained this Minecraft hack. So, the runner somehow summons a bastion, where he begins to do the usual. Mine gold blocks, turn them into ingots, and search for some piglins to trade with. But unfortunately, the runner actually can't seem to find a single piglin anywhere in the bastion. And this is quite literally impossible, as piglins will always spawn in a bastion no matter the circumstance. Well, after just a bit more searching, we come across a possible explanation for the lack of piglins. Because the runner finds a button on the wall called the piglin button? Alright, I don't even have to explain why this is fake, right? Well, I think it's pretty obvious that this button only serves one purpose, and that is to spawn in a piglin every single time the button is pressed. Okay, this feature is absolutely insane. So, after spamming the button for 30 seconds straight, the runner has an army of piglins ready to trade with. And while he does get lucky with some pretty good trades, including 12 ender pearls and 10 pieces of obsidian, that isn't actually what's fake about this part of the run. Because if you look closely, you'll actually notice that the runner has obtained 10 emeralds in his inventory, which is an item that is actually impossible to receive from piglin trades. So, while these emeralds may seem both useless and unimportant now, remember them because they will be extremely important later in the run. So, the runner somehow collects emeralds, and along with ender pearls and obsidian, he makes his way out of the bastion. But as he is breaking out, oh my gosh, what type of cursed looking portal even is this? I'm almost positive this wasn't a part of the new Minecraft update. Well, the runner makes his way towards this insane looking portal, where he of course sees a sign right next to it, which claims that this portal is actually called the fortress portal. Well, being curious, I think it's obvious the runner wants to enter this strange looking portal. And when he finally spawns in, you gotta be kidding me, he somehow spawns directly into a fortress. And while I'm nearly positive this quote-unquote fortress portal is simply some sort of Minecraft mod, I gotta give the runner credit because it was pretty cool. So, the runner enters the fortress, where after collecting loot from this chest, the runner starts looking for a blaze spawner room. But you gotta be kidding me. Instead of finding a real monster spawner like in a normal Minecraft speedrun, this guy literally finds another player who is wearing a spawner's skin. And you can literally see him pull pull out a blaze spawner egg, pretending like he's an actual spawner. And I'm sorry, I know this part of the run is incredibly fake, but it's so hilarious that I think we just have to let it slide. So, after locating a quote-unquote blaze spawner, the runner splashes on some fire resistance when blazes start to spawn, and the runner actually gets some pretty decent luck, collecting 7 blaze rods pretty quickly. And after collecting these rods, the most obvious next step would be to build another portal and head back towards the overworld. But I think it's pretty clear that this guy has a slightly different plan, because he starts running in a very specific direction until he comes across a roller coaster? Alright, you gotta be kidding me. Well, the runner locates a roller coaster, and it's pretty obvious he can't resist taking a ride on it. And while this does look like a lot of fun, this speedrunner is wasting a ton of valuable time. Well, that's until, at this part of the roller coaster, what? The runner literally falls between dimensions and drops straight into the overworld. I have 0 words. So, the runner somehow makes his way into the overworld, but he makes a huge mistake. Because even though he locates the exact position of the stronghold without any suspicious activity, let's take a closer look at his inventory, where you can clearly see the runner only has 8 Eyes of Ender after wasting most of them to locate the position of the strongholds. And because the end portal requires 12 eyes to be completed, how in the world is the runner supposed to continue with the speedrun? Well, the runner digs down and enters the strongholds, where he seems to be going in a very specific path. And that's when he finds a vending machine? Okay, was a vending machine an item in the new Minecraft update? Well, the runner makes his way towards the vending machine, but hold on a second. Do you remember earlier in the run when the runners somehow collected emeralds from these piglins? Well, of course, when the runner opens the vending machine, take a look at the currency he needs to purchase items. And on top of that, one of the items in the vending machine is of course an Eye of Ender, the exact item the runner needs to continue with the speedrun. And I'm not gonna lie, there is no way a vending machine is a real Minecraft item. So, the runner uses the emeralds he somehow got from the piglins to purchase the extra Eyes of Ender that he needs, where he makes his way to the end portal room and easily completes it. And despite finding a vending machine just a couple of seconds ago, his spawn into the end doesn't feature any strange activity, with the runner still being in survival mode and the dragon still being alive with a full bar of health. But as soon as the runner makes his way to the surface, what? A second Ender Dragon health bar suddenly appears at the top of the screen, and he literally finds 2 different Ender Dragons in the end. Is that even something that's possible in vanilla Minecraft? Well, I think this dimension, quite literally having 2 dragons, might simply be too much pressure for the runner, because while he is trying to kill one of them, he gets absolutely destroyed, and the speedrun just cuts off there. This next speedrun begins, and while everything may look normal, there is one super tiny detail which actually proves the spawn is completely fake. And it's not the obvious, as the runner is clearly in survival mode. And it's also not the position of his spawn, as the runner is facing perfectly straight in parallel with the surrounding blocks. But to figure out what is fake about this spawn, we need to take a closer look at when the runner was generating his worlds. Because as he was adjusting the render distance of his game, take a closer look at this setting, his FPS, where you can clearly see he has it set to a max of 200 frames. However, when the runner spawns into Minecraft, you can quite clearly see his game is running at well over this limit. And this small detail actually confirms that the footage of him generating the world and the footage of his spawn are literally 2 different clips. And not only did the runner edit together his footage, I am extremely suspicious that this speedrunner is using a set seed. Well, apart from the very odd spawn, I guess the rest of the run looks pretty normal, as the runner is still in survival mode, and he doesn't spawn in with a single item anywhere in his inventory. But out of nowhere, the runner jumps into the water and starts mining this very specific block. Okay, what is this guy doing? Why is he mining this block? Oh my gosh. The speedrunner manages to locate a buried treasure under the exact block he mined. But hold on a second. How did the runner know a buried buried treasure was under this very block, because the only way to locate one without a map is to use a process involving the Minecraft pie chart, something we clearly saw the runner did not use. So how is this possible? Well, this is the leaderboard on the actual speedrun.com website for 1.16 random seed. And if we take a closer look at rank number 1, the fastest Minecraft speedrun ever recorded, I want you to tell me if you notice what is suspicious about it. To start, both the speedrunner and this world record time spawn in the exact same location. And look, they both mined this block in the exact same place. And the chest contains the exact same loot. So as you have probably gathered by now, this speedrunner is literally playing on the same seed as the fastest run ever recorded. And not only does this confirm that the runner is playing on a set seed, something that is banned from any real speedrun attempt, but now it makes sense why the runner had to cut his footage in the beginning of the speedrun. So, the runner gathers all the loot from the treasure chest, where he mines some wood, crafts himself a few tools, and begins to search for a nearby village. And at a first glance, it may look like this speedrunner located the village without a bit of suspicious activity, as the village itself looks 100% normal. But let's rewind the footage, because this speedrunner has cheated once again. Because if you pause the footage at this very frame, do you notice that? If you look up into the sky, you can actually see the shape of an arrow pointing in a very specific direction. And not only is it clear that this arrow pointed the runner in the exact direction the village was located, but I think it's pretty obvious the runner built this himself to remind him which way to travel. And it's hilarious because I bet the runner thought this arrow looked like a cloud and we wouldn't notice. So, after following a very specific path pointed out by an arrow, the runner enters the village, collects some hay, and goes to loot this very chest. Now, I will be completely honest. The loot in this chest is 100% normal, as every single item here can spawn naturally. However, when the runner leaves the village after looting it, am I the only one who noticed that? The runner leaves this house and is now in a completely different type of village. Look, literally 20 seconds ago, the runner was clearly in a plains village, but now he is somehow in a savanna village. And of course, this savanna village conveniently has a ruined portal ready for the runner to use. So the only possible explanation is that the runner made a cut in his recording where he went off camera, found a completely different village which contained a ruined portal, and pretended he was in that village the entire time. So, after collecting a few more beds, the runner makes his way towards the ruined portal in the center of his brand new village. And let's not worry about the loot in the ruined portal chest, as it does appear to be completely normal. But let's instead focus on the fact that this ruined portal has one piece of crying obsidian in it. And this is a big problem for the speedrunner, as a ruins portal cannot light if there is crying obsidian in the way. Well, this is when out of nowhere, a random Minecraft intro starts playing. Isn't an intro supposed to be at the start of a video? And hold on a second, this guy forgot to put his name in the intro. It's literally unfinished. Alright, this is actually hilarious. Well, after that random intro stops playing, the runner returns to the speedrun, where he lights the portal. Hold on a second, where did the piece of crying obsidian go that we quite literally saw in the portal just a few seconds ago? Well, as you may have guessed by now, this hilarious Minecraft intro was actually a way for the runner to cheat yet again. Because while the intro was playing, this speedrunner was clearly off camera, removing the piece of crying obsidian and replacing it with normal obsidian. And while I did manage to catch him cheating, that intro was hilarious. So, the runner lights the portal and finally makes his way into the nether. And just a couple of seconds after the runner spawns in, he manages to locate a nether fortress. And while the fortress itself is actually pretty normal, this speedrunner cheated again. Because let's take a very close look at his inventory before the runner spawned into the nether. Got it? Well, the runner spawns in, and now take a closer look at his inventory. No, it's not actually any any of the items in his inventory that is suspicious, but actually the specific slot he's selecting. Because before the runner spawned in, we clearly saw he was selecting the second slot. But after the runner spawned in, he's now magically selecting the 8th slot. And because it is impossible to change inventory slots when teleporting between dimensions, this reveals that the runner has made yet another cut in his recording, which is likely the reason he was able to locate a fortress so quickly after spawning in. So, the runner enters the fortress, where he loots a chest, drinks a potion of fire resistance, and starts to fight blazes in hopes of collecting blaze rods. But when the runner kills his very first blaze, what? Why did this blaze just drop the world's largest blaze rod? That thing is literally massive. But wait, it's not just the first blaze that does that, but every single blaze in this blaze spawner room drops giant blaze rods. And I guess with these blaze rods being massive, they give the runner 6 pieces of blaze powder per rod, which is literally 3 times the standard amount. That was insane. Well, after only collecting 3 blaze rods, the runner has more than enough powder to continue the run, where he begins his search for a bastion. However, do you remember at the very beginning of the speedrun when we found out this player was actually on a set seed? Well, the runner literally pulls up a website called Bastion Remnant Finder, where he copies the exact set seed he's playing on and locates every single bastion in the entire Minecraft world. And I guess he's given up trying to hide his cheating because he does all of this on camera. So, after blatantly cheating and locating the exact coordinates of the bastion, the runner quickly returns to his game, where he opens his F3 menu and runs in the exact direction the website said, where he actually finds a bastion at those coordinates and quickly makes his way inside it, where after collecting some gold blocks and turning them into ingots, he finds a group of nearby piglins and begins to trade with them. But this speedrunner is about to do something so incredibly sneaky. I'm going to play the footage and I want to see if you notice it. Did you catch that? Right before the runner is about to throw his gold at the piglins, the ingots in his inventory somehow jump from 27 to 54. And while this is super obviously fake, how in the world did the runner double his ingots? We could clearly see there wasn't a single cut in his recording. Well, after somehow doubling his ingots, the runner now has double the amount of trades he can get from the piglins. And while he does have a lot of gold to work with, what? The runner collects 16 ender pearls and 20 blocks of obsidian. And I don't even want to do the math on that, but getting this lucky with trades is nearly impossible. Well, maybe the runner didn't actually get lucky, but instead he cheated, because I'll play this footage in very slow motion and see if you can catch it. That's right, when the runner originally opens his inventory, you can clearly see he only has 4 ender pearls and 6 blocks of obsidian. But suddenly, 1 frame later, the runner now has 16 pearls and 20 blocks of obsidian. And not only that, but notice how the runner's background completely changes as well. And both of these factors clearly prove that the runner made a cut in his recording, meaning he didn't actually get extremely lucky from these trades, but instead, he cheated. So, with a bunch of fake items in his inventory, the runner quickly builds another portal and spawns back into the overworld. And after the runner crafts some Eyes of Ender, you're probably expecting him to use the process of triangulation like a real speedrunner would, which is a very popular technique to locate the position of the strongholds. But I don't think there is any way I can prepare you for what is about to happen, because as the runner is casually running through the overworld, what the heck am I looking at? Is that a pyramid made out of the face of Obama? Okay, I've officially seen it all in Minecraft speedruns. Well, the runner makes his way towards this insanely goofy Minecraft structure where he literally finds a door at the front. And to nobody's surprise, the middle of this Obama pyramid features a ladder with a path that goes straight down directly into the strongholds. And trust me, I know this is fake, but I can't even comprehend how in the world this just happened. So, the runner enters the strongholds, and thankfully things appear to be slightly more normal, with the runner looting a stronghold chest and beginning to search for the end portal room. But why is there a random ladder on the wall? Well, the runner is of course curious and decides to make his way up this giant ladder. And when he makes his way all the way to the surface, you gotta be kidding me. He literally finds the end portal room above ground and completely on its own. Can someone please explain how this is even possible? Well, the runner enters the above ground end portal room, lights a portal, and makes his way into the end. And yes, his spawn is 100% normal, but that's about the last real thing in this speedrun. Because when the runner makes his way to the surface, why? Just why? The runner finds the most wish.com looking ender dragon that I've ever seen in Minecraft. And while you may be thinking this is just a joke, when the runner quote-unquote attacks the dragon by breaking one of its blocks, he actually loses half of his health. And when the runner actually manages to kill the dragon by mining his head, the health bar at the top of the screen actually disappears, and the gateway portal suddenly lights on its own. And I am so extremely confused with this entire run, we're just gonna move on. This next speedrun begins with the runner immediately locating a Minecraft shipwreck. And while his world generation screen is completely normal, and the runner spawned in facing perfectly straight and parallel with the surrounding blocks, the odds of spawning in directly in front of a shipwreck are less than 1%, so it is something to look out for. Well, the speedrun begins with the runner collecting some wood from a nearby tree, making himself a couple of tools to use throughout the run, and of course, heading into the shipwreck. But did you catch that? As the runner makes his way inside of the shipwreck, turn your focus towards the left corner of the structure, where you can actually see a parrot which is sitting on the shipwreck. Now, it technically isn't impossible for a parrot to be in this location, as he likely spawned in the jungle biome right next to the runner and simply flew over. But when the runner goes to kill this parrot, what? Instead of dropping feathers like any normal parrot would, this parrot literally drops a flint and steel for the runner to use. And while I have absolutely no idea how that is even possible, remember this flint and steel for later in the run. So, the speedrun continues with the runner looting all 3 chests in the shipwreck, which actually contain completely standard loot. And the runner then quickly heads towards this nearby village. But hold on a second, let's rewind the footage to the very beginning of the speedrun, where you can clearly see the biome directly next to this shipwreck is a jungle biome, which explains how the runner found a parrot on the shipwreck. However, when the runner goes to leave the shipwreck and locates a village, he is suddenly right next to a plains biome. And not only that, but notice how the runner leaves the shipwreck above 2 completely different colors of water. So, these 2 details actually mean that these are entirely different shipwrecks in entirely different locations. And the runner cut his footage pretending like nothing happened, so he could be right next to a village and gain an advantage. So, the runner enters the nearby village, and after looting one of the village chests, he turns his focus towards this pile of hay. And the runner starts collecting some as a way to craft bread to use throughout the run. But something absolutely insane happens when the runner goes to mine his last piece of hay. I'll play the clip. Did you see that? Even though the runner clearly mines a block of hay, somehow a block of obsidian is dropped from it. And you can clearly see there are 0 cuts in the recording, so I have absolutely 0 clue how the runner just pulled that off. And remember this single piece of obsidian for later in the run. So, with a bunch of hay and somehow a block of obsidian, the runner collects a few more beds and begins to search for a ruins portal. But I'm going to play this clip of him running towards it, and you tell me if you notice what's fake about it. Now, it was incredibly sneaky, so I'll play it again in slow motion and see if you notice it this time. Did you see that? Somehow, while the speedrunner is casually running towards this portal, the chest switches from a standard chest to an ender chest. And what's mind-blowing about it is that there was clearly not a single cut in the recording, and this chest has literally magically changed. And of course, this magical chest contains 3 blocks of obsidian, and after the runner places them in the portal, he uses the piece of obsidian he somehow got from the hay and has the exact amount he needs to light the portal. I'm so confused. So, after somehow looting an ender chest, the runner lights the portal with the flint and steel he got from the parrot and quickly heads into the nether. And like any normal speedrunner would, this runner immediately starts searching for a fortress. But all of a sudden, wait, what? The runner starts eating his wooden axe? Okay, hold on a second. Did this guy quite literally just gain hunger from a wooden axe? Am I seeing things? And hold on, not only did the runner somehow eat a wooden axe, but he now suddenly has a potion of fire resistance in the top right corner of the screen. What in the world is glitched with this item's game files? Well, after eating a wooden axe and getting fire resistance, the runner finally locates and enters a fortress where things actually seem pretty good, as the runner is protected from all fire damage and is making quick work of the blazes. But after the runner collects 7 blaze rods, he decides to continue fighting in the fortress. And this is incredibly strange, as any normal runner would immediately leave the fortress after collecting this amount of blaze rods. But this guy wastes a ton of time and continues to fight until he has 14 of them. And while this may seem like a complete waste of time, remember this extra amount of blaze rods for later in the run. So, after collecting a ton of rods, the runner finally decides to leave the fortress, where he begins to search for a bastion. But on his way, the runner finds a skeleton horse? Okay, wait a second. It's not even possible for a skeleton horse to spawn naturally in the nether, as they can only spawn if a normal horse is struck by lightning in the overworld. But secondly, when the runner hops on this skeleton horse, it starts going in a very specific direction, where it drops off the runner directly in front of a bastion. And I have so many questions, we're just gonna move on. So, the runner somehow locates a bastion, where he enters it and does the standard. Collect some gold, turn that gold into ingots, and locate a group of nearby piglins. But mixed into this massive group of piglins is what? This is no doubt the goofiest looking Minecraft player that I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes. Why does he look like the nerd emoji in Minecraft? Well, maybe I shouldn't be making fun of this player any longer, because out of nowhere, he gives the runner a full stack of diamonds. But not only that, he also starts giving him emerald blocks. This guy might not be so funny after all. And this random player gives the runner one final item, which is called the Wither Blade. Oh my gosh. Alright, I apologize for calling this guy goofy. He just gave the runner one of Minecraft's scariest weapons. So, after collecting a bunch of overpowered loot and absolutely demolishing a bunch of piglins, the runner continues throwing his gold at them and starts collecting items. And the runner actually gets insanely lucky, getting 16 ender pearls very quickly. But just like the runner did in the fortress, he doesn't leave the bastion after getting 16 pearls, and instead continues to throw gold at piglins. And this is incredibly strange too, as 16 pearls is far more than any speedrunner would normally need. Well, after wasting a few more minutes in the bastion, the runner finally decides to leave after he collects 28 ender pearls. Remember this for later. So, with more than enough blaze rods and more than enough pearls, a normal speedrunner would then build a nether portal and head back towards the overworld. But there's just one problem, because despite getting some crazy items from this random player and getting a bunch of good trades from the piglins, the runner somehow didn't collect a single block of obsidian, meaning he now has no way to build another portal and can't head back to the overworld. Well, the runner decides to head back into the bastion, where he comes across an ender chest, which first off, I don't even know how that spawned there, as ender chests can only spawn naturally in end cities. But secondly, how could this even help the runner? Because in Minecraft, all ender chests are linked together, which means that because he already emptied out the ender chest earlier in the speedrun, that means this ender chest will also be empty. Well, the runner still insists on opening the chest. You gotta be kidding me. He finds 10 pieces of obsidian inside, which is the exact amount he needs to build a nether portal. And I'm sorry, I have absolutely no idea how that's possible. So, using the obsidian he somehow got from the ender chest, the runner quickly builds another portal and spawns back into the overworld. And despite him cheating throughout the entire speedrun, he crafts Eyes of Ender, uses the process of triangulation, and locates the stronghold without an ounce of suspicious activity. But things are about to get a lot crazier. Because when the runner sees the end portal, what? Alright, I've seen some big end portals, but this one is literally the same size as the end portal room itself. And remember how the runner has collected extra of both rods and pearls throughout the run? I think it's obvious he somehow knew this portal was going to be giant, and he was clearly preparing for needing a bunch of Eyes of Ender. Well, the runner starts filling in the world's biggest end portal, and trust me, I wish I knew how in the world the runner just managed to actually light it. Because after testing in my own Minecraft world, it's simply impossible to light a portal this big. Well, the runner jumps in Minecraft's most massive portal, where he finally spawns into the end. And while his spawn does look to be 100% normal, with the runner still being in survival mode, and without any potion effects in the top right corner, those are about the last two real things that happen in this speedrun. Because instead of finding the Ender Dragon in the end, the runner finds the world's largest alley? Wait a second, is this even possible? Look, this is the size of a normal alley compared to this giant alley. How in the world did this alley literally become massive? Well, I guess the world's largest alley must have freaked the runner out a lot, because he immediately sprints towards the edge of the end and jumps off. Click on screen now for more hilariously fake Minecraft speedruns.